You can't unleash a million Harry Sassans upon the land and get people on board if the top of the line message is not good. Those guys are party loyalists. They will communicate whatever you need them to. Okay, it's funny you watching this because I just got this on my TikTok. Yeah, I saw this one earlier. The thing is, unleashing a million Harry Sassans on the heartland is not going to change people's material conditions, their material circumstances. You have to make sure that the message, the top line message, is good. If the top line message is bad, then the Harry Sassans, the loyal soldiers of the Democratic Party, are unfortunately going to be pushing a shitty message. Majority Report, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Anyway, the other reason why I'm late is because I was talking to Wall Street Journal this morning. So, you know, like a lot of people are reeling from this massive L that the Democratic Party took. And in that process, they're basically trying to figure out, like, do we go back to the old ways? Do we go back to the old messaging? And many people at the top are saying, yes, please, let's just do the old thing. Okay? And the only method that they have, you are the personable coroner for the moment. The only method that they have is still going right. Is crazy. They only fucking do. They only know how to go right. So they're just trying to message their way out of this by being like, how about we do the same thing and we tack to the right and say, you know, we write out trans people completely. And it just feels like, it feels like it's making me lose my mind a little bit. Democrats are realizing woke is broke. Morning Joe crew reads entire Maureen Dowd column slamming identity politics. Kamala ran as a transnational gang prosecuting cop linked arm in arm with Liz Cheney. What campaign do these people watch? And it's like, I think one thing that hasn't been talked about, I guess, as much is perception. Okay? It's perception. Is the perception of the Democratic Party broadly defined by right-wing commentators? Yes. And right-wing commentators don't tackle the issue head on. They make up straw men to present you as, okay? They make up unhinged straw men. They say stuff like, the Democratic Party is the party of, like, kitty litter in school classrooms. And in this current way where misinformation runs rampant, okay, and everyone is seeking out their own personal echo chambers, and they don't give a shit about what the truth is. There are a shit ton of right-wing broadcasters that also echo that sentiment, where they're like, yeah, you're right. The Democratic Party is the kitty litter party. So then they mistake that as the way people are, transphobic. We're too pro-trans. Like, they weren't even pro-trans at all. They never said anything about fucking trans people. The issue is, if you don't have any real material solutions to the problems that people are experiencing, they can basically write you as whatever the fuck they want to on the right, which is what they're doing. You know? They're doing that. They're doing that successfully because you are rudderless. You are constantly retriangulating to a marginally less bad version of the right party. If that's what you're doing, then yeah, you have no values. You have no firm commitments to anything, okay? You need to have you need to be a party that stands for something. If you're not, then yeah, people are going to just like make up shit about you, and people are going to and people on the ground are going to believe it. Isn't one of the biggest problems that liberals refuse to identify what areas are actually right? They refuse to acknowledge the shift. Election must have been bad if your beard is going gray already. No, brother, I'm 33 years old. My beard has been growing. My beard has been going gray. Less than 2 weeks ago, this is another thing that I called, by the way. Less than 2 weeks ago, neocons were boasting that they had taken over the Democratic Party. This was the second time in this century this faction has wrecked a national coalition. Here it is, the bulwark.
But here was the thing about the cheering that I loved.
This is like supposed to be the center-right, never Trump Republican central. And look at the realization that they came to.
Speaking of Stonewall. But also, I think it's amazing when you get 75,000 presumably libs on the ellipse.
Didn't you call this out when a trans chatter was complaining that they weren't advocating for trans people? You warned them that when they lose, they would become transphobic? Yes.
And she's like, we're going to have the most lethal fighting force. And people are like, yeah. And she's like, and we're going to secure the border. And people are like, yeah. And I was just like, this is, and she's, we are going to be leaders in the world. And we're not going to let these guys push us around. And I was like, man, the world's really changed.
Did the neocons just take over the Democratic Party? Don't.
Look, he goes, don't even joke about that. Look. Don't
Man, the world's really changed.
Did the neocons just take over the Democratic Party?
Don't say that.
Yeah.
It's gross, but it's the truth. It's gross, but it's the fucking truth. And let me take it one step further. Months and months ago, I told you guys, like last year, a couple years prior, I told you that there was a limit to how much the way that the American public was going to perceive support for Ukraine in a positive manner. And this is not about the moral position, okay? I'm not making a moral position here. I'm not, because the morality of the situation is clear. Ukraine has a right to freedom. Ukraine has a right to defend itself from Russian invasion. But I told you for years at this point that people were going to look at the situation and go, what the fuck are we doing? Like, why are we just giving unlimited billions to Ukraine? Because Americans are deeply selfish. They see that as like straightforwardly a continuation of war, and not just about Ukraine, but Gaza as well. Okay? I told you that Americans were going to be like, dog, my egg prices are so fucking high. Why are you giving money to other people overseas? Okay? That's it. Donald Trump very successfully tailored himself by lying as the guy who was going to end that shit. And it's dumb. It's fucking dumb. Bro, you are delusional. Trump supports Israel. Do you think I don't know that? Are you fucking stupid? Are you dumb? That's not what this is about at all. We're talking about perception. Narrative is more important than truth, okay? That's it. We live in a post-facts world. We live in a post-truth world. Narrative trumps truth. Narrative trumps facts. And Donald Trump was able to, regardless of his track record on this issue, whether it be Israel or whether it be, continuing wars in general, okay, was able to successfully say to Americans, guess what? No new wars under my administration. I'm going to fucking end Ukraine. I'm going to end Gaza. Okay? And for a lot of Americans, they were like, I don't like war. Why are we giving so much money overseas? Fuck it. Now, is he actually going to do that? Fuck no. And I said that as well. Okay? So more censorship of misinformation. How do people get his attention? The video I sent earlier is perfect for this discussion. So more censorship for misinformation. I don't know how we solve this problem, especially because it's weird to come to me as a left voice who absolutely is targeted more than your favorite right-wing content creator. Okay? And the reason why I'm targeted is not because I'm secretly a reactionary or secretly have like anti-Semitic tendencies or anything like that. I am straightforwardly targeted because I speak out about our unconditional death spiral allegiance with the nation state of Israel. Okay? I promise you, there are very few right-wing content creators that get this actively hounded. Okay? And the reason for that is because of my opinions or my coverage, my consistent coverage on what is this? People are fighting under my tweet as we speak about how you support terrorism, Lamau. Exactly. So, like, the point is, for a lot of Americans who value themselves as like anti-war, who see themselves, no joke, your stalkers yesterday said they have 4 tech developers analyzing your streams chats for free search, for free to search for anti-Semitism law. I know, it's fucking insane. And it's especially crazy because like we there are people who come in here and say unhinged shit. And there are people who hate raid, you know what I mean? And we fucking ban them. It is so nutty that people are personally taking it upon themselves to do this kind of stuff. You know? Anyway. Leftists can factually list out Republicans' values, but the right has no fucking clue what leftists believe, and yet they control the narrative. Facts don't fucking matter. Yeah, I forgot where we were at with this conversation. But would you consider watching this as a fantastic video? Potentially. Yeah. Bad Empanada is like such a funny human being because he's so unhinged, like so utterly deranged, while also simultaneously so brilliant. Like, he has yelled at me for not being sufficiently pro-Palestine. He is the number one like troop exploder type guy. I think at some point that was literally his Twitter username. Like if you were to see any number of different Twitter accounts that he has had and has been banned from and the types of insane shit that he says, okay, you'd be like, this is very clearly a mentally deranged guy. But if you were to exclusively watch his like YouTube coverage, his very well thought out and very well sourced YouTube videos, you'd be like, wow, this guy is fucking brilliant. It is, I don't know. He is just so deranged, but also so knowledgeable. And I've always had this position on him, regardless of like our back and forth over time and our disagreements. It's just like, I just wish he wasn't so insane. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's an E-Up Lovely type person, exactly. But I mean, even crazier than that. Holy shit, I've only watched his YouTube content and I didn't know about derangement. Yeah, if you only watch his YouTube content and have no idea what kind of rabid psychopathic shit that he says on like every other social media platform, you'd be like, wow. What a brilliant guy. What a well-crafted YouTube essay that is well-sourced, well-crafted, has like pretty convincing arguments. And then you see the way he tweets and you're like, that is the most insane thing I've ever heard anyone say. Why would you ever say that? It's funny because, he's just like, you are a mentally deranged person. And he is. He really is. Burden of being Australian. I'm not going to give you any examples of this because I don't even know what his fucking accounts are right now. He's constantly getting banned. And I'll say this, he's constantly getting banned for good reason. Okay? Just watch his YouTube stuff. Just watch his YouTube content and leave it at that. That's the thing I'll say. He's the perfect foil for Drew Pavlovs of the world. He's fucking insane. Like, this is what I mean. Watching Bad Empanada and Drew Pavlov is like watching Tom and Jerry. Yeah, he is an insane person. He is actually an insane person. He hates Drew Pavlov, which is understandable. I mean, many people do. Anyway, we'll get to his stuff in a little bit. I've said it before, but I love that Drew Pavlov will never change the PFP because it was the thinnest he will ever be for the rest of time. Ooh. Ooh. Scathing remarks. Anyway, where did this Drew Pavlov guy come from? I think he's a Cypriot Greek who is like a right-wing attack dog against China and has been funded by like psychopathic billionaires in the past. He's just a cheap hatchet man for right liberal American foreign policy positions. Like, that's it. That's his shtick. He's been arrested for making bomb threats to Chinese embassies. Yeah, he's fucking nuts, dude. Bad Empanada is Greek Australian too, by the way. Yeah. So what have we learned from this? Greek Australians, mentally unwell, but can be good or can be very bad. Oh, this is the best way to explain him? Yeah, Bad Empanada on YouTube versus Bad Empanada on Twitter. Yeah, this is how he is, yes. Do watch that video. It's very good. Yeah, we'll watch that video later. So what is this?
If you're the Democrats, what are you going to do for the next 2 years? How do you regroup?
Therapy. We're all going to therapy.
I don't know why. Like, that's how you know, dude. That's the difference between fucking liberals who are incredibly wealthy and incredibly out of touch, okay, versus people who do care about what's going on. My immediate reaction to this massive defeat was, one, obviously the Democratic Party needs to fucking fix everything, and they suck. But more importantly than that was to immediately start trying to figure out ways to organize and defend one another, okay? Like, oh, we'll just go to therapy. Okay, you can't therapy your way out of your immediate family members being deported from this country. You can't therapy your way if the Trump administration is now saying they're going to start targeting people who pro-Palestinian voices with the Esther Project. You can't therapy your way out of the regulatory agencies getting further crippled and the fucking water supply that we already have, the natural water supply we already have that is already poisoned, getting extra poisoned. Like, there is no therapy that will protect people. Therapy is only good in this circumstance if it just like upsets you. If the Trump administration and his victories just like hurt your feelings. Okay? Like, this is so, it's so different than just saying like, oh, I'm just going to go to therapy. I don't like that.
Why are we here? There's nothing. If you're a Democrat, all we can say is we hope that Susie decides that she's going to take a long vacation, that they hire some terrible people and make some mistakes to give us a chance, right?
Jokes like that stigmatize therapy. I mean, I'm not even talking about that right now. Like, therapy is good overall, but it's like, if your answer to this question is like, what are we going to do? If your answer to this question is like, oh, I'm going to go to therapy, I'm going to do a lot of therapy, you're a profoundly unserious person who does not recognize the legitimate damage, the material harm that a second Trump administration is going to cause now that he is like more overtly malicious as well. He's more vindictive. He has more sycophants around him, and he is ready to let it fucking rip. I think personally, if your answer to all of that is just therapy and not like, we have to organize, we have to make sure that we have more solid institutions that are outside of the scope of the immediate political party system. Like, there is no ACLU equivalent any longer. We need to ensure that there is some semblance of legal defense that we can mount towards all of the battles that we are going to have to take on to protect migrants, to protect trans people, to protect women, to protect women's right to have bodily autonomy, to women's right to get an abortion. Like, this all requires tremendous amount of political action, okay? And it's very frustrating that, like, your only response to this is like, oh, I feel bad. Like, is that the worst thing? Is that the worst aspect of Trump taking over the reins of this country? Yeah, if you're like a rich media personality, I guess. You know what I mean? If you're a rich media personality, yeah, it just like kind of makes you sad because the vision of a future that you wanted to design was destroyed once again, okay? You agree with the Democratic Party, you defend the Democratic Party, and that third way neoliberalism has been a disastrous failure. The people looked at that method, the people looked at that vision and said, fuck that, I don't want that shit at all. I'm ready to blow this up. So now your feelings are hurt. You're not thinking about the actual tangible material consequences of a second Trump administration. Okay? You're not. But the majority of people who make under 50K voted for Trump. I'm very familiar. Okay? I know. That goes back to precisely what I'm saying. In an environment where people's real lived experiences are not being addressed, in an environment where people are fucking renters, in an environment where people don't have job security, don't get meaningful wages, like livable wages from a singular job. So now they have multiple fucking jobs. Now they have to do Uber on the side. Okay? They're mad. They're mad about the fucking future. They're angry. They're frustrated that no one is addressing their needs. At least just came to say you're an ass. You didn't help Kamala win and you have a huge audience clown. You are the reason many didn't vote or voted for Stein. I don't know why so many people in this chat that come into this chat to say stupid things like this, like, don't have even a little bit of restraint and are so their overall refusal to like recognize exactly what just took place is very stupid. Like, first and foremost, third party votes collectively could not make up for the resounding defeat that Kamala Harris got in every single state. Okay? Just so you understand. So you're yelling at the wrong thing. You're not even right in this situation. Like, people used to say that about Bernie Sanders, or people used to say that about oh my God, my mom is texting me nonstop. Okay? Stop voter blaming. Stop blaming the voters. Start blaming the campaign. It is always the fault of the campaign. Okay? It's always the fault of the campaign. There is no world in which it's just the voters are too stupid to understand. Like, that's not how this works. You ran a bad campaign, okay? You did not get people to go out and vote for you. You did not have a captivating message. Here, Ested says, let the replies to this thread serve as politics Twitter warning label, just loud and wrong. I've said this 100 times, but it's not the message, it's the messenger. That is not to say he can't win, he can, but the MSNBC-fication of National Democrats has blinded them to his problems. Dems cleared the field for an unpopular candidate. You do that when you do that, you get a hard election. He's talking about Biden here. This is May 14th, 2024, not having a primary. Okay? I confess I'm a little unclear on how MSNBC is the reason that the incumbent president didn't face a serious primary challenge. It's very hard to do. Lots of people could have if they wanted to. The last one didn't face one either. The best way to save democracy is to trust democracy, Marianne Williamson. No one clears a field for an incumbent president. That's not how it works. How did Dems clear the field? I'll add to the chorus, sadly, because y'all circled the wagons for your employer after that political piece. Hard to take the heart where you're saying today we found out Haberman was one of the stenographers, yada, yada, yada. MSNBCification. That's rich coming from someone who works at a proto-fascist rag, aka the New York Times, that has failed democracy in the moment. Donald Trump descended in an escalator, Christo-fascist, yada, yada, yada.